Donald Trump's inaugural speech sent shockwaves across the globe as the 47th U.S. President announced major changes to American domestic and foreign policies. To discuss the future of Polish-American relations under Donald Trump, we're joined by the former Polish Prime Minister Jan Krzysztof Bielecki. Good evening.
Good evening to you.
So, Donald Trump was surprisingly quiet about Europe during his speech yesterday. Now, could this mean that he is way less interested in our corner of the world than his predecessor, Joe Biden?
Well, I wouldn't say that he was that quiet, because sometimes I think that when Elon Musk says this and that, then it's also like Donald Trump would be behind him. And Elon Musk was quite engaged in European affairs recently, because he suggested to change the government in the UK. I think he asked the king to dismiss the government, and then he supported AfD as the only party to bring...
ahead of the parliamentary elections in Germany,
yes,
absolutely.
Which is just running, yes, and...
Well,
and at the full speed, and he said that this is the only hope for Europe when AfD will run the country, and so and also gave an offer you cannot refuse to the Danish government, suggesting that they should simply give away Greenland because they need as for strategically the most important maybe island in the world. So at least you have 3 examples that they are engaged in European affairs.
Yes, that however did not happen yesterday, only a bit earlier. I'd like to ask you about Donald Trump's relations and his administration's relations with Poland. Back in 2017, when he was visiting Warsaw, he was very enthusiastic about the country. He also underlined the strength of the Polish-American alliance. Now, that was nearly 8 years ago. Could something have changed past this 8 years?
Well, I think they know that Poles are staunch supporters of United States, and we are in love with America from my early days, which is almost a century ago when I was born. So, in that sense, when he arrived to Warsaw, he really felt okay. At that time, as you remember, he was not very popular among the European leaders. Sometimes felt really surrounded by them at some official meetings like G7 or G20. So he arrived to Poland, was welcome. The president was in love with him, demonstrating it in a very eager way. So, well, I think that's why Poland was not mentioned in the early days. However, by some executive orders which were undertaken over the last 24 hours, I think that the Polish citizens could be affected. And first of all, I don't know the numbers. I think nobody knows. I've heard only about the number of Indian people which are illegally living in the United States, that it's roughly 200,000. I don't know how many of those people that kind of problem with the legal basis for they living in the United States comes from Poland, but it could be few thousand. So the embassies are therefore ready for legal and.
But do you think that if Polish citizens residing in the U.S. were to be deported from the United States, that would, visibly strain the relations between Warsaw and Washington?
I don't think so, because I hope that the government, first of all, will provide necessary assistance. Maybe some could undertake some legal challenge to this regulation, and I don't know, claim in the court that they have some rights to stay because they've been living there for quite some time. So I don't know how big social problem it might be, but this is an issue, definitely, and we should always look after Polish citizens. That's one problem. I think second one is regarding taxation. If U.S. will pull out with that general agreement on taxation for large corporate, I think above $700 million of turnover, if I remember well, then of course that means that in the country of destination, which is Poland, but it's not the headquarters for the company, because Ireland is much more attractive in that sense for large U.S. tech companies, for example. And then, of course, it could affect our tax
relations.
No, maybe not good relations, but that will have some price, and we will have to pay that.
Well, Donald Trump put a lot of emphasis on economy during his inaugural speech, and he mentioned the export of American oil and gas, if I may quote. "We will bring prices down, fill our strategic reserves up again right to the top, and export American energy all over the world." Now, how do these declarations play into Polish long-term energy security plans?
Well, I think that could have a direct impact because we hear in Europe reserves of LNG, particularly for the next year, are lower than a year ago. So the storages are, I think, 50% empty at the moment. So for the security, you need an access to LNG if we stop trading with the Soviets. So if there is more LNG on the market, then the price will go down. So that could be, to some extent, some compensation to some other costs triggered by Donald Trump executive orders. And of course, that brings us to the custom issue and new tariffs expected to be imposed on European export to the United States. And it could be a serious issue for Europe. I think Europe has a significant surplus, monthly 15 billion, if I'm okay. So that then you can imagine if that means that your profit or your net revenue is decreased.
And Donald Trump would obviously like to reverse the trend. That's what he has vowed during his presidential campaign. Now, you already mentioned, Mr. Prime Minister, Elon Musk's influence over Europe. And, so far he seems rather uninterested in Poland, but the presidential elections are yet to come. Now, if he was to meddle in Polish presidential elections, would that be a big problem for Warsaw?
Well, if he could meddle, as you said, in Trumpism way or Trump economics, then I would be even happier. Because that means that he will speak very much against the previous policy of government of Morawiecki, which was like a socialist government, and Elon Musk is definitely against socialism, strongly for the private property, strongly believes in any privatization or to privatize whatever you like, and rather also would like to have people rich and happy, which also I think could be a good lesson for some politician in Poland, the incumbent opposition, I mean. So some objectives of Trump's economy, that could be, I think, good for Poland, because over the last 10, 15 years, we a little bit forgot about very successful market reforms we introduced to the country. And now we are much more focused on distribution, when Donald Trump tries to rebuild the wealth of the nation. And the wealth is built by investment, by hard work, and also by good regulation and limited. So good for Poland.
Let's then conclude the conversation on this optimistic note. Former Polish Prime Minister Jan Krzysztof Bielecki was our guest this evening. It was a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And thank you for watching, and stay with us for much more news and features here on TVP World.